January is rushing up at us fast, and while I've been feeling a bit creatively burned out lately, I wasn't willing to start the new year on the back foot by not having my bullet journal set up for January. So I'm going for something very minimal for me, and really embracing the summer vibes of the Southern Hemisphere. Hi, it's Erin. Let's get organized for January 2025. Is it just me, or does it feel like we just did this for January 2024? Since I'm a little bit time poor at the moment, I thought that going with something with a bigger design would give me a quicker decorating process, so this is the Monet's Garden PET tape from the washi tape shop. It's got lovely, dreamy watercolor vignettes inspired by Monet's Garden in Giverny in France. And I feel like it perfectly romanticizes summer, and as somebody who hates summer, honestly, this is how I'm going to try and convince myself that actually I love it. It's the old if you can't beat 'em, join 'em mentality, right? Minimalism is quite difficult for me. Obviously, with my usual setups, it is not the way that I approach my journal at all, but I was trying very hard to channel Harmony of the account Joy Letters on Instagram here. She does the most spectacularly beautiful, elegant minimal designs, and something that I've really taken away from seeing her posts is that she will quite often include just one small illustration and the title of the month under that, and that is her whole cover page, and it's so impactful. It's also really quick to set up, and that is something I really need right now. Like seriously, one sticker and some lettering and the cover page is done. Who am I? This is a level of swiftness I am not very well acquainted with. This entire setup from start to finish took me an hour and a half, which is significantly shorter than usual. For comparison, January in the Mystery Journal took more like 4.5 hours. It probably could have been even shorter if I stuck to the minimalism thing, but it's just not in me, I guess. Things will get a little more complex than Harmony's would be. I'm not anticipating my January will be super duper hectic, which is great because I need some time off. So I've decided to make my January calendar actually quite small. Usually I give myself a full 2-page spread for this. This time instead I'm going for just a single page calendar. I'm making the box for the planning for each day 3 dot grid spaces tall by 3 dot grid spaces wide, and just adding an extra little space above each one so I can put the number for each day somewhere without it eating into the planning space, because if I do need to write something down, I'm probably going to need all of that box that I've given myself. Something that these minimal layouts rely quite a lot on is neatness too, so I've tried to go with a ruler for everything, but I did mess up one of my lines. Unfortunately, it's quite wonky, but I have a white paint marker, so it's going to be okay. As always, I will link to as many of the items as possible that I'm using in this video down in the description so you can get your hands on anything that catches your eye. The shape of the calendar for January gives me a little bit of extra space on the top left corner and the bottom right corner, so my plan was to just add decoration in those spaces, but then once I tried it, you'll see in a moment, it felt really unbalanced to me. So even from just the second page of the setup, I'm immediately wanting to go more maximal than I'd originally planned. Also, this PET tape is not one of the pre-cut ones from the washi tape shop, so you do need to get in there with your own scissors or gyro cutter and cut everything out. I'm still not really down with the gyro cutter. I have one, but I don't really get it, so I'm just going with scissors because for now that's still a lot faster for me. Actually, just watching this back, I feel like I could have left this little cute dome in the bottom right and just called it a day there, but I wanted to add something else to offset it because I am who I am, and that's where I think things start to go downhill. I could have left it here and we would have been just fine. I don't think that this is one of my favorite setups that I've ever done, but I also don't think that it's bad in any way. Like, I don't think that I've approached it in a way that means I won't use it through January, but I do think it's normal to have some layouts that you enjoy more than others if you like to do a monthly theme the way that I do. I think the cover page is lovely, actually. I really like it how it is, but this is feeling a little bit empty, so I've gone for a quote, and I thought it would be appropriate to include a Monet quote since he is the inspiration for the artwork that I'm using here. I found this one that just really resonated with me as a little introvert, and that is, "What keeps my heart awake is colourful silence." That is so beautiful. I decided just to letter that one with my fine liner, the 08 Pigma Micron, which I used also for the lines of the calendar, but the lettering I did for January and that I'm going to do on this page here, I've done with one of the Pentel Brush Sign or Brush Touch pens. So far as I can tell, they're the same thing, they just have different labeling on them, I don't know. They are one of my favorites for brush lettering though. They seem to have the perfect size tip to get into small areas but also be able to letter quite large if you want to. They're very versatile like that. As much as I've been feeling a little bit stressed and overwhelmed lately, I am really looking forward to the use of my journal in 2025. I'm looking forward to getting that organization feeling back. You might also recall, if you've been watching for a while, that I never ended up setting any goals for 2024. I have set some for 2025, so I thought it would be fun to include a bit more of a detailed goals page so that I could include some things like what I'm excited for and what I'm working on that I maybe am needing to improve to maybe think about goals for next month. I'm also trying to really focus on taking better care of myself in 2025 because something that I tend to let go of very quickly when I get busy are things like making sure I've had enough to eat, which seems a very basic thing, but here we are. So the habit tracker we're currently setting up on the right page is going to play a big role in that too, just making sure that I'm looking after myself. 2025 is going to be the first year that YouTube has really been my main income stream, my main job. I'm still doing some photography, but that's kind of the side hustle now, so that's amazing and I'm so grateful for that. But at the same time, YouTube is a very different beast to the photography business I've been running for the past 12 years. Things are much more fast-paced, turnarounds are a lot quicker, and I have to really stay disciplined and on top of things to make it work. So I'm trying to make sure that by taking care of myself, I make that easier to do. As much as my thought process when choosing this PET tape to work with for this setup was it has big designs, therefore it will be faster to work with, not having smaller elements to use is what's been stumping me here. I'm finding I actually really want some smaller things to tie different little vignettes together. There are some swans, and those are kind of doing the job for me, but I don't want to have a lot of swans on the page either, so that's okay. We'll move on now to the content planner, which is a very important spread for me in every journal setup that I do. There are some videos that are recurring, obviously, on my channel, like the monthly bullet journal setups, the monthly mystery journal setups, the monthly reading journal setups, but there are also other areas I need to fill in that require quite a bit of idea generation, and thinking ahead for that kind of thing can be really useful, so this helps me so much. I decided to change up my setup from the way I'd penciled it out on the fly, so that's always a bit of a risk because you can go into autopilot and draw over the wrong pencil line, but it didn't happen this time, which is nice. Also, I got a new ruler recently because I've been finding the 15cm ones just a little bit too short, and wow, the difference that it makes just having 3 extra centimeters is wild. This particular page setup is a bit of a weird one. I post videos twice a week, one on Tuesday nights, Wednesday mornings my time, and one on Friday evenings currently, although I'm thinking about moving the publishing time of that one as well. We'll see. I don't know. Watch this space. Which is why this content planner is set up in the way that it is, where the top row is all of my Tuesday videos and the bottom row is all of my Friday videos. I used to set this up as a full calendar, and I would also try to plan out my Instagram content on it as well. I'm not doing that so much anymore. And when I did this for December, I included sticky notes that I could move around. I don't know for sure if that system worked because I simply did not really pick up my journal at all so far through December. And at the time I'm recording this, we're halfway through the month, so that could change. But right now I haven't touched the content planner at all, which is okay because I also have this information in a Google Calendar. It helps me to have it in more than one place, but I do love writing things down with a pen, so that's why I'm also including one in my journal. Once again, these big decorations are my undoing here because while they are beautiful, they are not really doing the minimal thing for me. And if I had been using something smaller and just adding a little pop in that corner above the Friday the 3rd or a little bit to offset it in the bottom right corner after the 31st, that would have been pretty cute. But because I've got these big pieces to work with, I'm struggling. This content planner page is the one that really did me in to the point where I decided to introduce another tape. I kept trying to make it work and it kept just not working, and I was growing more and more frustrated with the way this content planner spread was looking. Sometimes I find that setting myself limitations, like I'm only going to use this one PET tape for this setup, really helps me, but sometimes then I get into a headspace where I try too hard to stick to it. And that is definitely what was happening here. I was thinking only one tape, make it simple. The simpler it is, the easier it will be. Wrong. I needed ever so slightly more complicated in order to achieve simplicity this time. Enter the pre-cut Summer Blossom PET tape from the washi tape shop. I'd had this one on my radar for a while because it has watermelons on it, which is an incredibly summer, Southern Hemisphere appropriate kind of January thing. And clearly great minds think alike because I've just seen that Jashi Corinne also used it for her January setup, so we are feeling the same vibes down here. This one and its sibling kind of that I used for the initial setup in this journal, the Mediterranean Breeze one, both have a really wide range of sticker sizes on the roll, so that means you can decorate in any space. There will be a piece that is just the right size. It's always a little bit tricky to add something in that you hadn't originally planned to use because you kind of have to find a way to make it work. So I'm going back through my existing pages and just making sure they're represented. So is Mitsu, apparently, my lovely kitty boy. And there are lots of tiny little individual pieces of fruit that I can use just to tie little sections together with a pop of red so that everything feels cohesive. I think what actually really makes these two tapes work together is the fact that the greens are very similar. So the leaves on the Summer Breeze are very similar to the leaves and the grasses and things in the Monet's Garden tape, so that's why it works. And look, are we still minimal? I don't know if we could say for sure that we are. I think we might have moved into a more standard kind of layout for me, except for the cover page and maybe the calendar somewhat. I think they're still quite sparse for my style, but it's okay. It just, as long as it works. And it still only took me an hour and a half, as I mentioned, which is way shorter than usual, so I can't be mad at it. Having said that, just not having to cut out the designs of the Summer Breeze tape before I can put it on the page makes a really big difference to how much time things take, so that could be part of it. Let me be super blunt here. The decoration of this content planner is a bit of a dog's breakfast and I'm not stoked with it, but it doesn't matter. It only has to get me through a month, so I'm just gonna live with it. I've got 2 spreads left to set up, which means I have 2 opportunities to really plan out how I'm going to use those tapes together in a more mindful and deliberate way. The first of those spreads is dedicated just to routines, because that is something that has been lacking from my life for a very long time at this point, is having a routine, and being able to stick to it I'm finding is really tricky. I included some things related to routines in the initial setup in this journal as well. I'm putting together kind of an ideal routine, and then I figured month to month I can look at that and work out what's actually working for me from that, what isn't working, what I'm willing to stick to and what I'm not really, and I can craft the routine and change it as we go month to month, because obviously the ideal thing that I think of in December that I want to jump into in January isn't necessarily going to actually work. I'm really coming from a place of not knowing what I'm doing here. So I'm trying to incorporate some habit stacking where maybe I start doing one thing and then once I've got that down, I will add another habit on top of that I do at the same time. But it's going to take some time. I'm really coming from a life of flexibility here, so I really don't have anything that's like holding me to a routine. I don't have a workplace I need to be at a particular time, so I really just have to be accountable for myself here, and sometimes that's really hard. Hence the spread that is designed to help me build on these things, craft them a little bit better, and be really honest with myself when something's not working. Of course, the final spread in this setup is the first of my weeklies for the month, and hopefully, I always say in the voiceover, like, this is something that we fill out the rest of them together in a live stream and we have a really good time, and that's sometimes true. Do you know what? I haven't set up a single weekly for December past my first one yet, so I also just haven't had a good time to schedule a live stream. If I did one for the middle of the day my time, which is kind of doable, I would really struggle because my office gets really, really hot from about midday onwards because of the way the sun hits, so I tend to try to only be in there in the mornings, so it's just really tricky this time of year. I mentioned I don't like summer, and it's proving to me why. But then sometimes also I'll be like, well, I shouldn't set up my weeklies even though I need them because I want to do it on a live stream and then I don't have time to do the live stream, and so I don't set up the weeklies, and so I don't feel organized, and here we are. I do really like how loose this weekly looks though. It has less days than typically because the 1st of January is on a Wednesday, and I didn't really want to include the Monday, Tuesday from the end of the previous year. That doesn't feel like a fresh start somehow, but I also didn't want to have like a weirdly shaped week that goes into the next week. I like my weeks to end on a Sunday, so this was my workaround. And here she is. This is January for 2025. Somewhat minimal, but also really kind of not. There are pages in here that I think look really cute, and there's that one, the content planner, which I don't think looks cute, but it will do the job. If you've made it all the way to the end of this video, thank you for sticking around. Make sure that you leave me a watermelon emoji in your comments so that I know. If you're keen to keep planning for the new year with me, there is a link on the screen right now to the initial setup in this journal with all of my yearly overview pages and trackers. And if you're looking for something a little bit more involved than this one, there is a link to January in the mystery journal too. See you there.